Hello, folks. So, in this video, I want to talk about understanding worth of things, understanding the value of things that you buy using money. It's a tricky topic, and I'm going to talk about it with respect to my experience and my view. So, it's mostly like an opinion and like based on my experience and what are my thoughts on it. This is no advice, but if you want to learn from this, of course, you can go ahead, or if you want to just stuck it, sure. So I mean, I've been earning for like some few years now. I've been earning since 2017 end. So it's been like almost it's going to be 5 years when I reach 2022 December. So more like around say 4 years, 4.5 years now. I've been earning and I've been spending those that money in a lot of ways. And I've also been saving and investing and whatnot. So when you start earning and or you actually start spending money even before you earn, like your parents are spending though, that's the only difference. When you earn, you spend. So yeah, that's the only difference. Like when I mean before you start earning, like your parents are actually spending money for the stuff that you buy. You go to school, the education and whatnot, right? Um, So interestingly, like when you start earning and you start spending, you realize like, hey, okay, so I mean, you might have realized this before you started earning and you were spending your parents' money. Like when you grow older, you realize that hey, people have to earn and people have to work, earn money, and then like spend it. When you're too young to understand that, you would just be spending a lot of money. Like you would just demand your parents to buy stuff, and your parents have to actually explain to you that, hey, this is too much, this is too costly, or things like that. When you start earning and spending, and you realize, like, hey, okay, I earn this much, and I have to earn this much to actually keep up with my expenses and things like that. Uh, Interesting thing, like I've noticed that when I started earning, I actually spent very less money compared to what was going on before I was earning. And I kind of understood it's hard to get money when I was in university in college. And I didn't even like demand much from my parents once I moved out of school and went to college and university. And I try to ensure that I use minimum money as much as possible, whatever I need. And if I thought about getting something, I used to be like, do I really need this now or should I just wait? And So yeah, most of the time I just went for something simple. And I think I just got one smartphone with my dad's money, I think one or two probably. And then later I just got simple phones, and then later, I mean, I did get things like tablets and all, but phones I just got normal because phones were costlier and tablets were cheaper, and they're also bigger sizes. And later when I started earning, I got a phone. I still have the phone that I bought with my money. This has been there for like a lot of time. Like I got it in 2018 and I still have it. Uh, so I mean, when you think about the worth and things like that, there are like a lot of things to look at. I think like you can also learn from your parents. They would have spent a lot for you and for the family before you started earning. So you can check that out from them. You can learn from others. In my case, and you can learn from me also, of course. Um, I mean, if you want to learn. And so there are some different kinds of expenses I've had over the years. I'm just gonna like look at some of them, but some usual ones like something as simple as like say buying clothes. You have to buy t-shirts or pants, track pants, and things like that. Buy things like bags. Like if I have to go to the office, and I mean the company did give me a free bag, but if I don't have that, I do have to get it. Or if I have to travel, I need to get a trolley bag, a big bag to actually take things. And I did actually get them. And then things like very simple, like every day-to-day things like you are brushing, you need a brush, you need toothbrush, you need toothpaste and things like that. Essentials, right? You need food. You buy ingredients for your food. You buy rice, you buy wheat and whatnot. Um, all these are like very essential stuff that you would actually spend your money on, and it's not easy to actually find the worth of these. I mean, like to some extent you can, based on like some factors maybe. But sometimes you just have to pay for things. You just can't do much unless there are alternatives, proper alternatives. So this whole idea about worth comes up for me when I think about like, do I buy this or not? Is this really worth it, or should I just chuck it and like look for an alternative, like look at other options cheaper or whatever? It's a tricky call. A lot of times it's based on emotion. A lot of times I do think like, hey, am I doing this and justifying it instead of like objectively looking at it? It's tricky, but to some extent you can actually justify it. You'll have a gut feeling, and you'll know when you make a mistake, and you'll just learn from the experience. You'll be like, hey, yeah, this was worth it, but this may be not. But it's okay. It's a thing. I just learned from it. So there are some experiments, and then there are some like proper things. But of course, you have to ensure that your experiments are like doable and like not too bad, and like you don't go into debt, something like that. I hope no one ends up in debt. That like ending up in debt, bankruptcy, and all is like a very, very sad situation. So I really hope people don't end up there by spending all their money and getting credit and whatnot. So there are different kinds of things that you can spend your money on, like essentials like these, food and whatnot, like everyday food that you eat, and then things like say electronic items, like I'm using my monitor, laptop, my camera to record this and things like that. You could be buying those, you could be buying mouse, keyboard, and all that. It's essential for my work, so I have to get it. I get paid for my work, so I have to actually get something that is helpful for my work. So I will pay for those. So those are that kind of worth. So the value I get it is like my work gets easier and becomes a bit more comfortable by using the monitor and a external keyboard and external mouse and things like that. Instead of using the laptop's trackpad and like the laptop's keyboard and like a small screen and things like that. It's also good to actually have a big screen to actually see the things and like bigger screen, less strain on the eyes and things like that. So you look at value when you buy things. So apart from essentials, there's electronics. You buy air conditioners or you buy phones, mobile phones, electronics, and there are different things. Electricals, electronics, there are some stuff, but basically electric stuff, any item, vacuum cleaner and whatnot. And then you buy essentials or some to some extent furniture, things like that. They are kind of essentials, or then you pay rent for your house, or you pay electricity bill, you pay internet bills, you pay for say I have specs, so I pay for this. Um, I also have a earphone, Bluetooth earphones, so I have to pay for this. So you pay for a lot of things. You also pay for say travel. Basically, you pay for services, streaming services, and things like that. And you also like you do in like I mean these are all expenses or like some sort of like necessary expenses apart from like this luxurious and things like that. But some of them are investments. For example, you actually invest money. In this case, you wouldn't call it expenditure or like you think about worth differently there. But of course, you're still putting in money. Just you're taking out money out of your account, bank account, or whatever, out of your pocket, and then putting it somewhere and then investing. There are also like I've come to think of investments in a bit on different ways. Like I'll come to that, and then you also pay for like you pay for products, services, and you pay for experiences and things like that, right? And you pay either a rent or you buy it completely and all that. So other kinds, like there is also travel. You pay for external services like say Uber, Ola, where you get auto share out, like, or you're actually getting into a share auto, public share auto, or you get into a bus, you get into a cab or car, like train, flight. So travel is also an expense, or you go out and eat food in a restaurant instead of like making food home at home, or you buy fruits from outside, or you buy say packeted food, say noodles and things like that, or you buy junk food just like burgers and whatnot, or you stay in a hotel and motel or whatever, and you also have phone bills. So I pay for my phone bill for calls, internet, and things like that. I buy, of course, I buy shoes and sandals and things like that for my footwear. So you actually pay for a lot of things. How do you find the worth? Well, I look at it in different ways. Like for example, let's say it's travel, for example. You would of course look at the cost and what's the cost. Let's say I go to from one place to another place for say $1,000, and what's the distance between these two places? Like let's say, is it a long distance or is it like really short? Like long short is still subjective, so you can look at the particular miles, kilometers. So let's say I go 500 kilometers for $1,000, right? I go from one city to another city, 500 kilometers. So that's like $1,000, 500 kilometers. That's like so that's, I mean, 1 kilometer would then be 2 rupees, $2, right? So that's still okay. I mean, that's the time taken, of course. I mean, not time, sorry, the distance and the cost. But there is also things like, is the mode of transportation even available? For example, I go by train, for example, let's say, and I pay $1,000, and it's 500 kilometers. It's 2 rupees per kilometer, and the time taken is, let's say, it's 2 days. That's a lot of time. Wow. Okay. I mean, just an assumption, just an example, but if it's 2 days and I can't do 2 days, that's a lot of time, and I value my time, then I would just say, hey, let me just choose a flight or something like that. There's also comfort and ease. Like in trains, you can actually find different classes of train, like seats. Like you have seater, you have sleeper, you have AC, like third AC, second AC, first AC, and things like that. You have chair car and things like that. So this is in the Indian Railways. So even in flights, there's business, economic, and all that. So even in cars, there's smaller cars, bigger cars, and things like that, right? So there is like comfort or ease or different classes and different services that you get, and then there is time, there is availability of that service. Like if you can't get a service that is cheap for you and good enough for you, worth for you, but if you can't get it, well, it's maybe it's worth it, but you can't get it, so you just have to go for something else. That's probably not worth it, but you can get it though. And that's the cost you're paying for even getting the service, because the other services are not even available. And then, yeah, like in terms of travel, there is like, yeah, availability of the mode of transport, comfort, ease, time, distance, and all that. It's a tricky thing, and like you look at the value that you get, and then you look at pros and cons, and you can also look at the alternatives to understand sometimes the value that you get. Like and you can also understand, say the yeah, like I mentioned, the time duration or like the product longevity. Like in terms of services, you look at time duration. Like say transportation service, you look at the time. Let's say it's a product. Let's say I'm getting the specs, and let's say this specs is like say 3,500 bucks. Let's say, and that's pretty costly actually according to me. But then if you look at it, 3,500 bucks, if I actually try to calculate, let's assume that this specs will be good enough for an year, like assuming that I don't break it and all that, I use it safely. I have actually used specs for like years, like say 2 years and all. So assume 1 year, and I'm spending 3,500 for one specs, and I'm assuming it's going to be strong for 1 year, assuming I don't use it in a rough manner, and like it's all good, like without scratches and things like that. Then for a year has like say 365 days, non-leap year, let's say, and I am going to spend 3,500 divided by 365, which is like per day it's like 9.5 bucks or like nearly 10 bucks. So basically I'm going to be spending 10 bucks per day for my specs, and I think it's a pretty good worth, because this is going to help me see, and it's very very essential for me. It's an essential for me. It's related to my health, my eyes health, my body health. So if I have to see properly and like not strain my eye and like be able to have a good vision and be comfortable in like seeing things and have a comfort, like proper good frame, good lens, and have blue filters and things like that, water. So I pay that much money, and like the longevity, it's let's say 1 year, and like I look at the values, I look at pros and cons. There would be some cons, like let's say the cost is a con, it's pretty costly. I say $10 per day is still costly for me. I could say that I can't afford it. Fortunately, I can, but if I can't, I can't. So, yeah, you look at that, and then you look at say longevity, and then you look at like comfort and things like that, right? Depending on the kind of thing that you're buying, you'll have to look at some factors to understand what is the value that you get, like, and what does it mean for you? Because everyone has different values. As in, for me, I value my health a lot. I think many would. So sometimes it's not very explicit. Sometimes it's very like, I mean, people forget or put it in an implicit manner. So it's sometimes they make the mistake of not putting their health first, or they don't realize that they're not putting their health first. But when you consciously take decisions with your health in mind, you would take a lot of great decisions, is what my opinion is. And in this case, I think spending this much amount of money, water for my specs would be a good thing, assuming that this is the word that I get and I value my eyes, my health. Um, and similarly for travel, let's say you're going for something very urgent and you are time bound, then you would have to just take up something that's faster. That's because you are like constrained by it. And the value that you get is you can go punctually to some place, right? Same way, let's say you want to stay in a hotel and you want to stay in a trusted hotel, and you want it to be pretty good, smooth, like you want good food in the hotel and things like that, hotel, motel, then you would actually pay a bit more and like look at the number of hours you stay in, the cost you're paying, the services you get. For example, you get actually free Wi-Fi in the hotel. Instead of using your mobile internet, you can just use the free Wi-Fi and look at the speed that you get. If it's good enough, it's good enough. Your mobile internet actually costs more compared to your, say home broadband or say hotel stays Wi-Fi, which you get as part of your stay, and the food that you get and things like that. If you can use the value and services that something is providing and you pay for it, and you're okay with using it, or like you want to use it and it's useful for you, then I would say just go ahead. But of course, if it's not useful, or if worse, if it's actually negatively affecting you, of course, don't pay money and like negatively affect your thing. Like don't negatively affect yourself. Like for example, people buy junk food. I buy junk food sometimes, and I bought a lot of junk food before. And it's a funny thing. Like you pay money and then you actually spoil your body. That's like, I don't know. It's crazy. I know, but we people have cravings. It's hard to like control them. I've had issues controlling cravings and all. But yeah, it's a tricky thing. But yeah, I just think that what are my values? Hey, I want good health, so I'm gonna try to actually actively ensure that I don't spend money on junk food, which is actually going to negatively affect things for me. So it has more cons than just pros of like a good taste or good mood, which will just last for a few moments or just for some time. And yeah, same way like you go. So I was talking about internet, right? So you have mobile internet, and mobile internet is like portable and like sometimes even fast and all that, but probably not as fast as like your home broadband. The speed that you get with home broadband and the speed, the ping speed and things like that, the upload and download speed, and the comfort of like using many devices with that just one home broadband is like pretty awesome, and it's pretty cheap. The quota that you have, the upper limit quota, like say I think I have some 3000 GB that I can use for upload and download in my home broadband, and it's pretty cheap compared to my mobile internet where I just get a few GBs per month or per few months for a lot of money. And it's because it's portable, and portability is what the money is coming, and it's a lot of money. And because home broadband, I can't just roam around with my home broadband. I can just be in the house. But this one, I can roam around, and wherever I get my network, I can use my mobile. So that's the value that I get, and that's the cost that I'm paying for it. But if I have an alternative, like I'm inside my house and I can use my home broadband, I better use that and not instead use up my mobile internet, which is more costlier. So you understand the word by looking at those values. And of course, like let's say you value your health, you can say you're buying fruits. Of course, like it's probably costly fruits, vegetables, but it's gonna help your body's nutrition. If you don't actually buy that, probably in the future, like, if you're unhealthy, you go to the doctor, you're gonna pay doctor fees instead, or like medical fees and things like that. So having a good health is still good. So buying fruits, vegetables, doing something good for your body with the money that you have is kind of like an investment in my view. Even though you're paying for it and like you're spending money, but it's an investment for your body. And so yeah, I would say understanding worth, think about the values that you have and like how you want to take a decision. So it's easier to take decisions when you have some values like, hey, I want good health, I want to be responsible and things like that. Um, and yeah, of course, like things like a good chair and good tables. I have a good chair, good enough chair, not a good chair, but and a good enough table that's high enough, so that I can see it in straight, see my monitor straight, with a straight head. And if that's not the case, let's say I'm using my laptop and I look like this instead without a monitor, or like without a table and I look like this with keeping it on my lap like this, my neck is going to go down so much and I'm going to actually get neck problems. Or if I don't have a good chair, then I'm going to get back problems, backache. So spending that money on a good chair, table, and looking at the longevity of it and like looking at the value that it provides, a good health, and then apart from longevity, look at the per day cost. Let's say you assume that this is gonna, you are gonna have this for a year, and like it's gonna be good enough for a year. What's the cost per day, and what's the value that it provides? I'm sure it would be like good enough, unless you get like a very fancy chair that's like very costly. But of course, I think everything has its own value. For example, you get a chair made of gold, of course, that gold is going to have value, so that it's going to be costly. And then smartphone, yeah, like let's say you get smartphones, and smartphones are pretty costly. Like you say, you get Apple iPhones or you get Android phones or whatever it is, right? Mine, I got it in 2018, and I've been still using it. The One of the pros is that, well, it's been very worthy. I mean, I've been using it from 2018 for like 4 years now, and it's worth the cost, yeah. And the operating system that it came with, Android One, so I had updates for a lot of time, some 2 years, and it didn't have much issues. I had always put protection, and that was worth the money. The screen protection and like also the phone's protection to actually protect it from breakage. So a guard, basically phone guard on the back guard, back cover. And yeah, I mean, the one con of having this phone is that like sometimes it's slow, or like sometimes I have to when I charge it, I can't use the phone, which is like a con. So I end up spending a bit more time on the phone when I'm charging it, or like if it's slow, I end up spending some more time doing some task, which means that my time is I'm spending more time. My time is gone, like, and that's the cost I pay for actually having the same phone for this much time. Am I okay with it? For no, I am to some extent. So I don't spend that much time when I'm charging the phone, or like it's not very slow for everything that I do. Probably slows at times, very rare thing. It gets stuck at times, but apart from that, the software is pretty good. But yeah, that's the cost that I pay for like having a phone for 4 years now and like not having updates for the OS, but it's good enough for me. It's okay. So you understand the pros and cons and the values that you get, and like the negative effects, the positive effects, and like what you trade off. Like my time, I spend a bit more time sometimes if I'm charging my phone because it's a bit slow or it's a bit annoying. So that's the trade-off that I have for this, or I just get a new phone that's not slow when it's charging or in just general, right? Similarly, like let's say footwear, so I buy for 1K and I have it for a year. What's the cost I pay for per day? It's probably just say $3 or whatever, like it's 10,000 rupees, then say 400 days, that would just be what? 1,000 rupees and 400 days, that's just like 2.5 rupees per day. So it's pretty okay for your footwear, which you wear for a lot of time. Like I wear my specs for a lot of time. Footwear, yeah, go out, you keep wearing. Some people wear footwear a lot in the house itself, right? There's also TV and things like that. You watch a lot of TV entertainment. The thing is, you do spend for the TV and the um, streaming services and things like that. You spend a lot of time and you also see the screen for a lot of time. You have smartphone, TV, and all. So you spend that money and you're actually, the negative effect is that your eyes and like your time, but you also get entertainment, which is good for your mood and things like that. So yeah, it's a tricky combination, but if you have a good balance, I think you can just think of it like as good value depending on how much cost the TV or the streaming service or your smartphone is. Um, and let's say hotel stays, how much hours you spend there, the services that you get, I spoke about that. Your phone bill, how many calls that you do, how much internet do you use, how many messages do you send, short message service, SMS, and things like that. Your mobile internet, your home broadband, the speed, the portability, and this and the upper limit. So you look at value, you look at pros, cons, you look at longevity or like duration or time of the service. You see if you're renting or buying. You understand what your values are, and then it's easier to actually understand what you're paying for. And this is a good thing to do because sometimes I have noticed myself regret paying too much, only to realize, hey, that was okay, that was worth it. But sometimes you do know when it's not worth it, and that's an experience, and that's a learning experience. And yeah, like apart from services and products, you also pay for experiences, like good experience during the service or during the usage of a product or during the usage, usage of a service. So you also pay for the experience. Like a good experience means you have a good peace of mind. Your peace of mind is also pretty important. So yeah, there's an interesting thing where if something is costing you your peace of mind, it's pretty costly. Right. So yeah, and I actually recently got a bicycle, and it's pretty costly. But if you think about it, yeah, the values that I get, I actually can cycle, like use my bicycle every day, and like instead of renting a bicycle every day. In the long term, it's cheaper, but in the short term, renting is cheaper. Yeah. But with Corona and all, and the COVID and all that, I didn't want to rent and like use bicycles that others use. I could contract COVID or other diseases. So I figured I'll just go buy one, and I have to clean it up. That's maintenance costs. So those are two costs. And yeah, but the best part is I think it's an investment because I can cycle every day. It takes time, yeah. I cycle to nearby places, or I just cycle every day a few kilometers. And the best part is it's good for my health. It's good for my body. It's good for my physical health. So the time I spend there and the physical exercise is good. So it's an investment for me, and that's possible only because I spent that money on my bicycle. So I kind of see it as an investment. So whenever I think of my bicycle, it's either an investment if I use it, and it's just an expense, fancy expense if I don't use it and just let it lie there. So yeah, that's an interesting way to look at things, worth of a service, experience, product, the renting, buying. Is it an investment? Is it expense? Uh, yeah. So yeah, yeah. Whenever you actually get some service or use some service, understand things that you get from with it. Always understand the terms and conditions, and understand what do you get for the money you pay, and try to make the best use of it so that you understand the worth of it. Sometimes when you don't see it or notice it or know the services that you get for the money you pay, you might think it's not worth it, but yeah, it's probably worth it. Yeah, so that's all I had for this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.